And thank you again so much for joining us and for being part of this community, even though we are at a distance from each other. My name is Deb Matlock, and I'm with Wild Rhythms, and I'll be your session host today. So please feel free to private message me or call Nicole Bickford, and her number is in the top of the chat if you have any technological issues, and we'll see what we can do to help you. And let me switch slides here. Before we really get rolling, we want to thank all of the amazing sponsors who have supported the EE and the conference this year, whether it was in person and have stayed our sponsors to handle this virtual approach to things. I just want to take a second and look at all those awesome logos and know that behind those logos are a bunch of people who really care about the work that we all do as environmental educators. And a little technical note here with Zoom is, as we are all getting familiar with Zoom, I think the whole world is starting to get familiar with Zoom in some way. Please, if you are not speaking in a breakout group or asking a question, please make sure that your line is muted, which is in the lower left corner. If you want your video to show, the video icon is in the lower left corner as well. And please be sure to add your name and where you are zooming in from in the group chat so we know who is with us today. So before we move forward, I want to just thank you all again and say this is an amazing opportunity that the CAEE has put together for us to be able to communicate virtually today, and I hope you're getting a lot out of it. And without any further ado, I want to turn this over to Katie Navin and Kat Riley, who are going to share all of their wisdom about the AmeriCorps program with us today. So let me stop this share and turn my mic off and hand it over.
Thanks, Deb. Appreciate it. And I'm so glad to be with you all here today virtually. I'm Kat Riley. I am the AmeriCorps Program Coordinator with CAEE. And whether you are in the process of applying for an AmeriCorps member with your organization, or you are still confused by some of the logistics of the program itself, that's what this Q&A is all about. It's to answer your questions. And also, I'm a learner forever, so if you have any successes from previous AmeriCorps programs that you've operated with or whatnot, you want to give some advice, we'll discuss that at the end. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them down in the Zoom group chat, and Katie and I will take a look at them and answer them as we go along. So can you all see the PowerPoint okay? Because I'm not seeing it. No, okay. I'm going to bring it up then. All right. Just 1 second. There we go. All right, can you all see it now? Sorry about the technical difficulties. Yes, okay. So just to introduce myself again, I'm Kat Riley, the AmeriCorps Program Coordinator with CAEE. I was a previous AmeriCorps national member in Washington, D.C. And throughout my career, I've worked a lot with, I've worked alongside a lot of new, AmeriCorps members. So Vistas, States, National, and CCC. There's a lot of different branches of AmeriCorps, and it can get kind of hefty. So I'll briefly go over that. I'm also a former educator, and my background is in environmental studies and anthropology. And here's a picture of me doing my two favorite things, being outdoors and drinking coffee. So that's all you need to know about me. So what is AmeriCorps? So each year, AmeriCorps is a national program that's operated through the Corporation for National and Community Service. 75,000 members serve across 21,600 nonprofits, schools, public agencies, and community and faith-based groups. Since 1994, which was the year that AmeriCorps was founded, over 1 million members have contributed over 1.4 billion hours in service across America. And they've done so in numerous places across the nation for different types of programs, poverty alleviation, environmental education, all sorts of things, youth empowerment, whatever, you name it. So particularly national service in Colorado, we have currently, this is the most recent data we have, about 800 local service sites across the state, 6,900 Senior Corps and AmeriCorps members. Senior Corps is just a branch of AmeriCorps. I believe they're over the age of 55 or 60, and they serve with different programs like foster grandparent, et cetera. Over $35.7 million from CNCS and local funding have been provided for these programs. And then $90.8 million in AmeriCorps scholarships have been earned since 1994, just in the state of Colorado alone. So we have a big presence here in Colorado for national service, and we are only continuing to grow, especially through this program. So I added this slide very briefly because I've been having some questions and I just wanted to elaborate on this. Some of you might be familiar with the AmeriCorps program, and more commonly with AmeriCorps Vista. So AmeriCorps Vista is Volunteers in Service to America, and CAEE's AmeriCorps program is a bit different from that in that we're operating at an AmeriCorps state program. So AmeriCorps Vista and AmeriCorps State are both full-time, so the members in the CAEE program will be working full-time or half-time or 3/4 time. We are not Vista, so the activities of the members are going to be a combination of direct service and capacity building. So the majority of the service that AmeriCorps members participate in our program are going to be direct service with pre-K through 12 students, teachers, other educators, et cetera. AmeriCorps Vista is the AmeriCorps member who sits in the office and does fundraising and builds plans and doesn't do a lot of the hands-on work. Our AmeriCorps members will do a lot of the hands-on work. Also, AmeriCorps Vista does they dedicate a lot of their time to fundraising for their program. Our AmeriCorps members at the AmeriCorps state level cannot allot more than 10% of their time to fundraising. But they can help fundraise for the program, which is good news. All right, are there any questions so far? Okay, perfect. All right, so at the federal level, AmeriCorps is operated by the Corporation for National and Community Service, or CNCS. You'll hear me say that a lot. They award grants and funding and other resources related to service and volunteering across the US. AmeriCorps Vista is operated by CNCS, but for us, because we're AmeriCorps State, we're operated through Serve Colorado, which is kind of like, it's CNCS, then Serve Colorado. Serve Colorado is the Colorado State Service Commission for volunteering and service. They operate AmeriCorps, like all the programs at the AmeriCorps state level, and they also operate Colorado Reads and particular days of service that the member has to participate in, and I'll get to that in a second as well. They also allocate funding to programs like ours and resources and training. So the way that that kind of looks to us is that CNCS is at the very top. They provide the funding and the resources to Serve Colorado, and then Serve Colorado in turn trickles that down to us, and then we're the intermediary and we host the member, well, we help to provide the resources for the service sites or the host sites who will be supervising the member at their organization. So that's kind of the model of what this AmeriCorps program looks like. And there was an earlier webinar that Katie was hosting about the CEEP. Overall, the mission and the vision has stayed pretty much the same. Some of the language has changed, but overall, there are 3 main goals through the CEEP. And that is to prepare students to understand, analyze, and address major environmental challenges facing Colorado, US, and the world. Vice versa, connect teachers and students to standard-based relevant EE experiences, and then to connect school districts and teachers to professional development opportunities in EE. Because of the CEEP, we have aligned our AmeriCorps program directly off of those goals of the CEEP. So in turn, these are our 3 goals of the AmeriCorps program, which is to develop new EE programs, to build capacity of existing programs, to increase outreach efforts, and to build and maintain relationships and network with teachers and other EE professionals. So that's the chunk of what the AmeriCorps members are going to be doing in their service. Their particular duties are pretty much up to you as long as they align with the SEEP and the goals of our program. So this is a lot, and please feel free not to memorize any of it right now, but it's important to know that CNCS has developed performance measures. They're basically ways that us as grantees have to prove that we are successful in the work that we're doing. So CAEE has taken 3 of the performance measures that fall under environmental stewardship, and we've used those as our performance measures for gauging the success of our programs across all sites. So if you were considering on being a host site, these are some of the measures you'll have to integrate within your organization, and continuously collect data to measure and track the outcomes of these goals. In brief, the first one is the numbers of individuals receiving education or training in environmental stewardship. That's a big chunk of what we do already, so collect data on that. Members will be primarily doing that as well. They'll help to collect data and evaluate. And also to track the number of individuals with increased knowledge of environmental stewardship, and also to track the number of individuals reporting a change in behavior or the intent to change behavior. So those are the things we're going to be evaluating consistently throughout the course of the AmeriCorps program for years to come. All right, any questions so far? All right, cool. So who are our members? For previous AmeriCorps members, you guys are pretty familiar with this as well, but if not, AmeriCorps operate on a term of service. So an AmeriCorps member serves with your organization for either a full-time term, 3/4 time term, or half-time. Most common is full-time, which they have to commit to 1,700 hours, and that's usually done in about 11 to 12 months. And for our program, we are looking to start hosting members with organizations beginning in August of this year, so either early or mid-August, and then they will have to end by August of the following year, and that's the latest that they can serve until, but ideally they will serve until June, well, probably July. So for an AmeriCorps state member, or an eeCorps member in our case, 70% of their entire 1,700-hour service has to be direct service and capacity building. 20% of that is training, so attending orientation, other types of trainings offered by CAEE or the host site, and then 10% of that can be used towards fundraising just for the AmeriCorps program itself. So they can't fundraise for your organization and some of the other activities that they wouldn't participate in.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So 3/4 time, half time, can that all be lumped into like a 3, 4, 5, 6 month period? Or does it have to be stretched over a 12-month period?
That's a really good question, actually. So halftime is going to be, I think, stretched between 5 and 6 months. And it's up to the organization if they want to host that member for full-time or part-time. But they do have to complete a certain number of hours within their term of service, but it's up to you when you want that to be completed by. 3/4 time is about 9 months, so that's ideal for organizations that don't work during the summer, but full-time is most common. Alrighty, next slide. All right, so all AmeriCorps members have to meet certain minimum qualifications. It's pretty standard across the board for many people, but they have to be U.S. citizens, U.S. nationals, lawful permanent residents of the U.S. They have to be at least 17 years of age at the commencement of their term of service. It just makes it easier for everyone. They have to have graduated from high school or be GED recipients or prove that they're working towards this by the end of their service. And they have to pass a very lengthy, very in-depth national service criminal history check. We'll be in charge of doing that. So they just have to be, not convicted murderers. So those are the minimum qualifications for members. Some of the benefits that I want to talk about, because some of you might know, anything about the member living stipend, which we'll get to. How can an AmeriCorps member survive? Well, they are treated very fairly. They do have a lot of benefits. I was an AmeriCorps member and I did survive during my term of service. Full-time members only do get health and childcare if they don't already have health and childcare. It's through the core network health plan, which is basically provided by Cigna. It's a pretty good plan. I was on it. And then they also, at the end of their term of service, if they successfully complete it and get good, end of year evaluations, they get a Siegel Education Award, which full-time members, it's the equivalent of a Pell Grant. So this year it's $6,195. And then half-time gets, a portion of that, 3/4 time gets a portion of that, et cetera. And they can use that towards paying off student loans. They also get student loan deferment and interest payoff while they're in service. So those are some of the great benefits that AmeriCorps members have. So the living allowance, AmeriCorps members or eeCorps members will get a living stipend. It is not a salary or a wage, it's a stipend. It is taxable income, but this is good because I know a lot of AmeriCorps members who, sometimes say, I don't know if I have enough money for like a lot of the food that I need. Because it's a living stipend, it doesn't count as a salary. So I know a lot of AmeriCorps members who do get food stamps. That's another benefit that we can talk about if you want at a later time. The living stipend, no matter where the AmeriCorps member is to be placed, will be uniform across the entire state. So for full-time members, the AmeriCorps member is going to make $14,900 during their 1,700-hour commitment. 3/4 time will make $11,175, and then half time will get $7,450. And the cost match, which we'll talk about as well, will go towards the living allowance. So that's how much AmeriCorps members will get during their term of service. Any questions so far? Okay. So if you are thinking about it, I know we're in a situation where it's like kind of uncertain, but if you are considering becoming a service site or hosting AmeriCorps members of your own through the eeCorps program beginning this fall, here are some general things that we have to make sure that you're able to abide by, which will give you a service site agreement at a later date. But here are some of the general things. You must assign a site supervisor to oversee the member during their service term. This person is pretty much going to oversee their entire service term, so they should be employed currently with that organization that the member is a part of. Your organization must be a 501c3 registered, a government agency, or a public institution. Unfortunately, private for-profits are ineligible. I know there are some EE organizations that are private for-profit that do amazing work. It's just CNCS will prevent us from having private for-profits as host sites. If you would like to become a host site, we do ask that you commit to a per member cost match. So if you want, for example, to host 2 full-time members beginning this fall, the cost match would be $15,000. So it's per member and it's per service term. Service sites must participate in the hiring and the training of service members. We'll help you to develop those job descriptions and post them, but ultimately, you will have to be in charge of the hiring and the training of that member, although we do provide orientation and some other training services. You must participate in the ongoing evaluation of performance measures, which I stated earlier, and member service activities. You must ensure members are on track to completing their required hours. They do have to commit to the number of hours per their service term, or else they will be ineligible for their education award, etc. And you must sign a service site agreement with CAEE before accepting members, which we'll get that to you if we go through with the process of confirming you as a host site at a later time. So there's just some of the general things. Another benefit of AmeriCorps members is that they have plenty of opportunities for professional development and networking. When I was an AmeriCorps member, I participated in many different training opportunities, resume building, career workshops, all sorts of things. And the same thing applies to eeCorps. They have the ability to participate in regional EE leadership councils. They also have the ability to work towards obtaining CAEE's professional EE certification. There are numerous trainings and a couple orientations that will be offered for the member by CAEE, Serve Colorado, CNCS, and or the service site hosting the member. And members will have to participate mandatorily in AmeriCorps Days of Service. In Colorado, there's 3, and they're kind of spaced out throughout the year. There's the September 11th Day of Remembrance, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and then Cesar Chavez. And then AmeriCorps Week, which recently just passed. They'll be able to participate in that as well to share the benefits and their love for national service in the state of Colorado. Oh, something to note is that all of this training and professional development for the member cannot be more than 20% of their total service hours. They still have to be dedicating 70% to direct service. All right, we're coming to the close of this, but something very, very important to note is that CNCS and Serve Colorado are very specific about the list of prohibited activities that members cannot perform during service at any time. No. So all of that is provided in this hefty list, so you don't need to know it. We'll provide a training on it at a later time. But a lot of it has to do with, don't participate in a boycott or a strike. Don't engage in partisan political activities while you're on the clock as an AmeriCorps member, and those kinds of things. So we'll make sure that members do not participate in these things while they are performing service with their host site. All right, that is the end of that information about the AmeriCorps program. Are there any questions? And feel free, if you have a question, to just unmute yourself and bring it to the table. And even if you have any recommendations or thoughts, discussion, please bring those as well. I'd love to hear anything and everything.
And just one thing I'd like to add in, Kat. So we have applied to run this program. This is a grant, as Kat mentioned, through Serve Colorado. So we will know for sure if this program will be launching and running in May. We submitted our application like a week and a half ago. So we are building the program as we speak. So as Kat mentioned, there's still a lot of room for guidance from the EE community.
Thanks, Katie.
Well, I won't be bashful. It doesn't seem like I am. I'm curious how there's such a discrepancy in cost of living across the state of Colorado. How has the conversation been going or thinking been going about sending AmeriCorps people or EE to the expensive mountain communities where I happen to live and many others do too?
Right.
Let alone, it's expensive to live in Denver.
Yeah, no kidding. No, you're absolutely right. And this has been a subject of discussion. And some of the things that we've mentioned for sites is that, part of what CAEE will do to kind of help alleviate those costs is to reimburse members for travel to mandatory orientations and training sessions. And then also certain sites who do have the ability to offer added incentives. I know certain sites have they have available housing for AmeriCorps members. Maybe they could invest in, public transport. I know that in certain mountain towns, public transportation might not be a feasible solution, but there are some added incentives that we could provide them, and also the host site. And did you want to add anything onto that, Katie?
Yeah, I will say we talked a little bit about what it would mean to offer different living stipends in different parts of the state. And it was recommended by Serve Colorado that we not do that because of just the complications of doing that and budgeting for what that looks like, since we don't know who our host sites are yet. And also because it impacts recruitment for sites that have higher
Yeah.
and
I just
lower.
know that you can't even rent a bedroom for less than, I mean, a bedroom is $1,000. So that's why I asked the question. And if the total income is only $1,400, it's pretty challenging.
Definitely. It can be challenging, but it definitely, you know, because I was living in DC when I was an AmeriCorps member, and it's kind of difficult out there as well. Things get really expensive. And I mean, thinking about my time when I was in service, you know, applying for food stamps really helped to alleviate the cost of groceries. That was really what I was spending the chunk of my money on. And a lot of members end up rooming with other members. That's something I would consider if you're looking into hosting AmeriCorps members, is if you are in a community that, you know, has a lot of young people, or there's other organizations that are already hosting AmeriCorps members, seeing if, you know, or even looking into 2 members so that they can room together. Rooming really helps to alleviate that cost. I answered some of the questions that Rachel asked, but I'll just repeat them because I think they're really good questions. So will this be the first year for the eeCorps program? So if we are successful in the grant, this will be our first year, which is really, really exciting. And when do you anticipate letting folks know if they are accepted as a host site? So our deadline for the host site applications was due on March 25th, but we've actually extended that a little, and applications are accepted on a rolling basis. So we will review your application no matter what. If you are looking for the link for that host site application, I'll be more than happy to send that over to you. Or if you just want to reach out to me at my email for a list of the PDF questions before you actually commit to the application, I'll be happy to send that to you as well. How many members will you get, and how many host site applications do you think you'll get? So we're looking ideally for our first year for 12 members. And the number of host site applications we think we'll get, right now we have 6 from different host sites. We're still looking for more applicants. So if you're interested, please do go ahead and send your application in. We will 100% review it. Let me see, were there any more questions? Oh, awesome. You think you already applied? Woo! All right, are there any more questions or tips or anything you want to add?
Oh, I have one more question.
Yeah.
So, not a real nonprofit. I have a nonprofit fiscal sponsor for a big project that I do, and I'm curious if that nonprofit could be a host, but I run the program. Because does that make sense? Like I have a nonprofit fiscal sponsor for a big program.
We could double check on that, but I believe that would be just fine. Like they would be designated as the host, and they would just assign you as the site supervisor.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any more questions? I know it's a lot to think about in this time of uncertainty, but if you all have any questions or concerns or anything that you would like to ask, please reach out to me. I'm here, you know, all the time. I've also put my cell phone in my email signature, so please give me a call at any time. But yeah, what time is it, by the way? Oh, anything else? Perfect.
All right. Well, I just want to say thanks to everybody for joining us late in the afternoon on a Friday, and for joining us at any time today. It's been so wonderful to see all of your faces and connect even through this virtual format. And I think, at least for us at CAEE, it was pretty sad to know that we weren't going to be able to host the conference this year, or this spring. hopefully we will be able to host it this year. But it's just been so wonderful to have this learning continue and happen throughout the day. And good, I know, for me in terms of just continuing to connect and learn and take care of ourselves during this time. So super huge thank you to you all, and stay safe and healthy, and please reach out to us if we can support you with anything.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. I put the evaluation link in the chat, and it's also on the virtual PD website as well, but we would just love all the feedback that we can get. All right, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.